1920s in New York City, on the easternmost part of Long Island, in a place that we now know as Montauk. And it was such a covert military operation in the 1920s that they built a fake fishing village, fake buildings. I mean, it was, there were some people living there, but not a lot. It was not the resort town that it is today. Today, people go and stay there, you know, for the summer and all sorts of things. But it was a military base from the 1920s until 1983. And then through, and it went through, I believe, two incarnations. The first was Camp Hero, again, a fake fishing village by the government for experiments and all sorts of things. And the other one then led to what you just discussed, the Montauk Project and the Philadelphia experiment. I'm going to discuss and go into detail as I go through this information, some of the following phrases. Let me just share them with you. So I'm going to be discussing Operation Paperclip, which many of your wonderful followers are really wise to. Already I've discussed the Franklin child abuse, so that's done. A program by the name of Family Jewels, which led to the church committee hearings, which I believe some of your followers also know about. I'll be discussing very well-known Pulitzer Prize investigative journalist, Seymour Hersh. And then, you know, briefly touching on the Philadelphia experiment. Talking about the Montauk Project, which was held on what used to be Camp Hero. The MKUltra program, as I just said, Paul Bonacci said he was an MKUltra victim. And I want to say that for those of you who have read Jeffrey Epstein, Predator Spy, first of all, thank you so much for having read the book. Because in Jeffrey Epstein, Predator Spy, I gave you some clues. I said that one of Jeffrey Epstein's friends, his name is Stuart Pivar, and also this is something that you can find in a Mother Jones article that came out when Jeffrey Epstein was initially arrested in July of 2019, so almost 3 years now. Stuart Pivar was a very close friend of Jeffrey Epstein. He is in the art world. He was friends, Stuart Pivar, with Andy Warhol. And just as a background information, Stuart Pivar and Andy Warhol opened up the New York Academy of Arts School, which one of the women who is described as a victim, Maria Farmer, attended. So he told Stuart Pivar that he studied math with the Unabomber as a kid. The Unabomber is a man by the name of Ted Kaczynski, who in fact, this is again verifiable information. He went to Harvard, and during the 3 years he was at Harvard, he took part in one of the CIA's covert programs, MKUltra. The students, Ted Kaczynski among them, did not know it was MKUltra, and he was paid, I believe, the kids were all paid like maybe $8-10 an hour. They were put behind this two-way mirror. They were treated in a way that was very belittling, to test their boundaries, right? To see where they would break. But this is part of our historical record. So this is something that can be checked into. The government has not been able to say that it was not. He was not.
For the audience, excuse me, Kirby. There's a citation, Alston, Chase, Harvard, and the Making of the Unabomber. That's the definitive book on that. So what Kirby Summers is saying here has been well documented. Continue.
Okay, so Jeffrey Epstein said that he had been a student of Ted Kaczynski, who again connected to the MK Ultra program as a kid. And today I'm going to share that I believe, and I have always believed, that Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell are part of the MK Ultra program. And I just want to say that MK Ultra, I use that as a broad term because even when it began in 1945, in earnest, in the United States, with the German scientists that were brought into the United States in the operation known as Operation Paperclip, and these are the same scientists. You know, it's a shame to call them scientists when in reality they were butchers and they were people who were experimenting on children and killing Jewish people and putting them in gas chambers. But that's really what the reading material that we've been provided in the United States. That's what they refer to them as. So, you know, for me, I find it offensive to call them scientists, but that's what, you know, the official word is. So I'm going to continue to use that, and, you know, just to understand that for me, I find it offensive. So these scientists were brought into the United States because of their knowledge of the mind control techniques. The United States was of the belief that if they learned how to control somebody's thought patterns, their behavior, modify behavior through the use of drugs, that they could essentially then beat any military opponent. And so they invested quite heavily into these programs. And they brought over, on the record it says it was 1,600 scientists, but frankly the number is much higher. And it began, frankly, before 1945, before the war. It began in the late 1930s. And just as a sort of an aside, like a bonus, because I know the information and we're talking about it, so why not say it? The way they were brought over, initially it was not covert. You know, they would just find these scientists with knowledge about mind control, and they were shuffled over into the United States, literally here to the New York pier, where they were picked up by usually the chauffeur of a well-known, very wealthy family. So one of these families, one of your friends, you just had him on your show, Manny Grossman?
Yes.
Okay, so a family like Untermeyer, is that the right?
Yes, Untermeyer, as in Untermeyer Park. Louis Untermeyer, the prominent attorney.
So the prominent attorney and others of his ilk who were, some of them were German through and through, some of them were German who then, during the war, said that they were Jewish, right? So they would come into the United States, but they were wealthy. They had a lot of money. And so these Nazi scientists that were brought in, let's say, before the war, and even after the war, they would end up going into the homes of these very wealthy, prominent men who had homes, let's say, in upstate New York, places where they would not, you know, they were not necessarily part of, let's say, a busy city like New York City. And they would be given 6 months to sort of recuperate. And during the war, they would be given a facelift. Their appearance would be altered. In some cases, their name would be changed. And then from there, they would go into Harvard or into the NASA program or into a place like the Montauk Project, or, you know, and the Philadelphia experiment. So I'm just going to stop here and see if you have a question, because I don't want to just.
Yeah, well,